special interviews, highlights, and live broadcasts on IDC Radio.
You're listening to IDC Radio 106.2 FM. I'm Etai Handman, and I have the pleasure of having in studio with me now Professor Suolao Wang, the director for the Center for Middle East Studies, School of International Studies at Peking University in China. How are you doing, Professor Wang?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, first and foremost, taking time out of your busy schedule as you're taking part in 4 panels, 4 events while here at the conference. And let's get things started with the simulation game that you're going to be taking part in. And did it start yesterday for you already?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So the simulation game is taking place about the day after a deal is signed with Iran. And you're playing the part of the Chinese government. And I would like to ask you, in your opinion, how realistic is the game, the simulation itself? And when you are portraying China, are you portraying China as we see them in the public light now, or what you believe should be the best course of action for the Chinese?
Okay, first I came here not represent China.
No, just in the simulation game.
Yeah, because they put my name with the Chinese flag. That means I'm official delegate of China, and that's not correct. I'm just a scholar, a professor in the university.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think the deal last November between Iran and P5+1 is very meaningful, and it's very important, not only for Iran, for this region, Middle Eastern region, and also for the whole world. Because this is the first time Iran had a meaningful agreement with the world powers. So, in decade. So China, as the one party of the 6+1, also China as a nuclear state, we pay much attention to this deal. Actually, China played some kind of role to push forward this deal. And for us, we think this deal will be a good beginning to reach a long-term deal that will contribute a peace situation in the Middle East.
So the simulation is called the day after tomorrow. The deal is signed.
Yeah.
What do you believe happens the day after tomorrow?
After tomorrow, as I know, now the United States is discussing with Iranian delegation in Geneva yesterday, today. And actually the 6+1 is also discussing with Iran, try to find a long-term deal, maybe this month or next month. So for me, I think, of course, there are a lot of difficulties, of course, but we should do something, try to overcome the difficulties and to reach a final deal. Because now Middle East is so messy, so many countries suffering from unstable situation, and some country is in a civil war like Syria, like Libya, and for China, we think Middle East is a very important region, full of energy, oil and natural gas, and China importing a large amount of oil from this region. So this region keep stability is benefit. China will benefit from this region. So for us, we think Iranian nuclear issue is one of the key issue in this region. From point of Chinese, we think it's better to find a good deal.
So, in your opinion, what do you think is a good deal? Because what we hear, the rhetoric, like the French, they come out on their very hard line. They're very, they have a very close attachment to the Middle East historically, and they've taken a very hard line, not only versus Iran in the negotiations, but also vis-a-vis Syria and the civil war that's going on there with Assad. But and then you have a softer stance, what seems to be the American stance vis-a-vis Iran. Where do you think the Chinese stance falls in?
From China, I think, as a scholar, I think Iranian nuclear issue is one thing. Syria, Hezbollah, and other things is another thing. If you put all these things together, it's hard to find a conclusion. I think now all the concerned parties should focus their eyes on the nuclear issues. For the previous issues, Iran and other parties make all compromise. Iran agreed to stop their enrichment beyond 5%, and also dilute some of the enriched uraniums at the level of 20%. So, and the U.S., they released the sanctions on Iran, part of sanctions on Iran. That's a good beginning. Now, of course, for Iranian side, Iran should make commitments or do genuine measures to stop its nuclear activities that leads to creating nuclear bombs, and try to totally stop the creating nuclear weapons. And also, this is Chinese point of view. Iran should not produce any nuclear bomb, and try to do something to guarantee this. And for some other parties, just like United States, try to do more compromise to release more sanctions against Iran that give Iran new government, new president, Rouhani, confidence to persuade hardliners in Iran to agree with the deal with the big party, with the big powers. Because we all know in Iran inside there are hardliners and the moderates, and also Iran is suffering from a sanction. So I think both sides do and make compromise that will give a chance to the peaceful solution of these difficult issues.
Most definitely. Over the last few decades, you see the real rise of China as becoming a very huge economic power. Militarily, they're growing in sophistication. And China is really starting to assert itself on the world stage as well, getting more involved with difficulties around the world. And I thought it very interesting when you said that the outlook is very different, that Iran, Syria, Hezbollah are very separate issues. So how do you feel, or what do you feel the Chinese government outlook is on Syria? Is that an internal issue only, or do they feel that there should be world involvement to stop what's happening there?
First, from Chinese sides, we think at the beginning, Syrian issue is an internal issue, because some dissidents, oppositions, they want to reform of the political system, and then there conflict, clash between government and oppositions, and then opposition they get outside support, and they become rebels against the government to overthrow the government through armed violent ways. From Chinese point of view, such thing could happen in any country, especially like a country like China. We have Tibet issues, Xinjiang issues, and some separatist movement. If other countries support such internal anti-government movement, that will lead the internal unstable and internal fight. For us, we think this is interference, outside interference. So we think to overcome such issues, it's better not give the role by other countries, by the outside forces. Try to make internal negotiation or peace talks and dialogue to find a solution. That is to say, Syrian people resolve their problems by Syrians, not by other neighboring or the Western powers. So you can see China joined with Russia to veto UN Security Council resolution 4 times, because we think such thing will exaggerate the Syrian crisis not found a solution to the crisis. Of course, we feel sad because so many Syrian civilian people died, and China supply with support, financial support to the refugees, and we do hope to find a quick resolution to help the refugees and to overcome the humanitarian crisis. But that is why China support the political resolution of Syrian crisis. We don't support military resolution because we think a post-Assad era full of uncertainties. Because as we all know, Syrian crisis based on many reasons. One of the reasons is the sectarian strife. Alawi, Sunni, and the Kurdish, and the Christians. Syria itself is a very complicated state. So if Syrian current government was eventually collapsed, nobody knows what will happen. A humanitarian crisis, maybe even worse than now. Recently, Assad himself re-elected as a president. You can see so many Syrians cast their votes to support him. And at the same time, we look at other Middle Eastern countries like Libya and Egypt. In Libya, now the general, former general, is operating dignity operation.
Right.
And Egypt, former military leader, now elected as president.
Sisi, yeah.
Sisi. That means in the Middle East, many people, they prefer stability, prefer a safety situation than the so-called election. Because Israel people, I guess Israeli people understood the Middle East very well. Because Middle East is a country quite different from the West.
Right.
Full of religions and full of tribes.
Right.
Full of many situations, it's unique situations. So the Middle Eastern country, when they step on the democratic road, that should be slowly and rational, and not so fast, and not at the cost of a chaotic and humanitarian crisis. So this is what Chinese perspective.
Fair enough. What would you say then, or how would it be explained that there was no world intervention when it was found that chemical weapons were used? And I'm not saying that it was Assad or the rebels, because there's no proof which side used the chemical weapons, but we do know chemical weapons were used. So what would be the Chinese response to that? How do we stop from civilians from dying from chemical weapons? And it's not a matter of choosing a side or creating a new political reality in Syria, but it's actually trying to stop chemical weapons from being used on civilians.
Yes, that is a serious problem. From Chinese point of view, China think chemical weapons in any case should not be used. That's unacceptable. That is why China supported Russia's suggestion last year, and later China voted yes for the Security Council resolution. That is, totally destroy Syrian nuclear weapons. Actually, China sent one warship with Russian warship, and Denmark and Norway warships help Syrian chemical weapons destroyed in the Mediterranean Sea. Because for China, we think weapons, chemical weapon is one of WMD, and WMD use such thing to against the civilian people or troops is unacceptable. So we think in the near future, try to find some mechanism to cut off the importing role. So who gave the chemical weapons to both rebels and the government troops? International powers should stop this. Don't give chemical weapons and other WMD weapons. And in that way, Syrian people, civilians, could avoid of such attack.
Fair enough. Moving along, in the conference itself, you're going to be taking a part in a panel called Global Powers and Middle East Peace and Security. How can they make a difference? And I found that to be very interesting because when I was doing a bit of research on for our interview today, one of my main questions was, how could the Chinese play a bigger role in facilitating peace between Israel and the Palestinians? And then I noticed that you were on the panel saying, how could the global powers make a bigger difference? So in your opinion, how can the Chinese play a bigger role in facilitating a peace process between the Israelis and the Palestinians?
Okay. For China, of course, we all know United States and also international quartet for so many years played a key role to push forward the Palestinians, Israelis to sit on the table to make negotiations. Actually, China already appointed its special Middle East special envoy, also come to the Middle East, persuade Israelis and Palestinians to make negotiations. But I think China's role really different from other powers. That is through economic means. Indeed, because China now we have a huge plan to try to build, actually rebuild the old Silk Road belt. Last year, our President Xi make a public suggest that to build economic belt crossed Silk Road and another maritime Silk Road. So Middle East could be the end of the Silk Roads. So China want to make economic links with all the countries along the Silk Road, Middle Eastern countries, Central Asian countries, and through energy cooperation and investment, and to help eliminate the political difficulties. Because, as you know, China invested a large amount of money in many Middle Eastern countries. We even help Palestinians to build their buildings. For this year, Palestinian foreign ministry headquarters will be completed by Chinese. And also, China invested money in oil countries and in non-oil countries. We think economic boom, economic prosperity could help people to find more chances to overcome their difficult political differences. If there's no economic basis, no economic achievements, it's hard to find to find solutions. Actually, what happened in the Middle East, the so-called Arab Spring, in its essence, is a lack of economic prosperity and the social justice. The people, they're suffering a lot for long-term authoritarian leaders because there's no economic achievements, no job, no dignity life. So we think to resolve the Middle Eastern issues as a whole, try to find a way to push forward the economy through economic cooperation. So this is China's role. This is China's model. Because we Chinese, we in the last 3 decades, we step on this road. Put aside political reform aside, and then put all our energy on the economic reform, economic progress, and then try to overcome other difficulties. When you relatively have money, relatively get rich, you will have the opportunities to do more things.
So what kind of investments or financial incentives do you think the Chinese could give to both the Israelis and the Palestinians to have them sit down at the table? Because we always hear about threats. We hear about Israel has to release prisoners. We need the Palestinians to agree to being a Jewish state, or we're not going to sit down at the table. And the Chinese model is different. It's about finances. It's about saying, look, let's get economics in play here. Let's get the economics of the game going so that there's prosperity on both sides of the field, and then you'll want to sit down and negotiate. So what kind of financial incentives can the Chinese provide to both sides to get them to sit down and negotiate properly?
Yes, this is a challenging question. Of course, we already realized to push forward the Palestinian-Israeli negotiation is not easy. Even as U.S., the largest, the only superpower in the world, so many years, so many presidents did a lot, but no big achievements achieved. For China, we think from different level. First, on the China-Israeli level, we have many opportunities to promote cooperation. Israel is a small state, but it's a great state. Israeli people are so talented, and there are so many innovations, and the military innovation, and civil innovation, and China now enjoy the large amount of investment, so we could find some kind of opportunity to make a joint venture. Israeli technology and China investment in Israel or in China to try to build a factory, company to develop new energy, green energy technology, and the saving water technology, because China is a country lack of suffered from shortage of water, and in agriculture. And in many fields, you can find the cooperation opportunities. And at the same time, for China-Palestine, of course, Palestine is relatively difficult for Chinese company to invest the money there because West Bank and Gaza, now even Palestinians, they suffered from divisions between them. Recently, just until recently, Fatah and Hamas, they established a unity government. So through the unity government, maybe for 1 year or 2 years, when Palestinians unified, maybe that will give some chances to attract Chinese companies or to attract China investment. So, of course, this is not easy, but I'm sure for Sino-Israelis, we can do a lot of things to cooperate each other.
I like that you brought up that the Israeli innovation and the ability for both the Chinese and the Israelis to get together and build factories or whatnot. And I read a very interesting article that Tel Aviv University and Beijing, excuse my pronunciation, but Tsinghua University, they signed a $300 million agreement for building like a Silicon Valley for high-tech research in China, in Beijing. How do you think that's going to affect Chinese relations with the Israeli government?
That is a good thing. Tsinghua University is a neighboring university of our Peking University. We two universities enjoy the number one, number two of all the Chinese universities. Our university, Peking University, some people call it China's Harvard.
All right.
The Tsinghua University, some people call it China's Cambridge or something like that. We are neighboring university, and Tsinghua. It's a good news. This time, Tsinghua University signed a big deal with Tel Aviv University. Our Peking University, our president of Peking University just came to visit Israel 2 weeks ago.
Wonderful.
And our university established Confucius Institute in Hebrew University.
Oh, wonderful. wonderful. So now there's Confucius Studies at the Hebrew University.
University, because our university has a long-term cooperation with Hebrew University.
As you mentioned, you spent a year there.
I myself, I used to stay in Hebrew University 1 year, just came under the exchange of scholars between two states, between two universities. So I guess more and more in the future, our Peking University could also make a deal with Hebrew University. Actually, our president is so eager to find opportunities to do that.
So not just
This
financial,
is not.
could be academic as
I
well.
mean, we China, you Israel, we have many area can be cooperated, education cooperation, and medical cooperation, because we all know Israel is one of the countries that enjoy the advanced medical technology, and scientific and research cooperation. You have a Wisman Institute, so many reputed scientists there, and so many Chinese students. In Israel, you can find many Chinese students. So I think whatever Palestinian-Israelis conflict there, but that doesn't hinder the China-Israeli cooperation. Of course, at the same time, China do hope to find a solution between Israelis and Palestinians, because if the conflict still there will be no peace. That will hinder the cooperation between Israel and other countries.
No, I have to completely agree with you on that. I think it's very interesting the different cooperation that Israel and the Chinese are having over the last few years. I remember I was personally at the Yad Vashem Museum, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, and there was a special military tour for Chinese military personnel. And I found it very interesting as I started to see cooperation between the two militaries.
Yes.
And that sort of brings me to my final question of our day here, as we're sort of up against the time, is it's two parts. Number one, where do you see Israeli and Chinese military cooperation going? Where is it at right now? And lastly, how do you feel or what is the state of relations between Israel and China currently? And in the near future, how do you see, what direction do you see it going?
Yeah, let me answer the second question first. So, recent years, China, Israel, the political relations quite good. Last year, Israeli Prime Minister Mr. Netanyahu came to visit China.
Yeah.
And this year, Israeli President Mr. Shimon Peres also came to visit China. He's already 90 years old.
Yeah.
But he also paid visit to before he resigned. So you see, at the same time, China also sent its high officials came to visit Israel. Political relation, at my judgment as a scholar, observe this area for a long time. Currently, we have a very good relation since we two countries established formal relations 22 years ago. For second question, military cooperation, actually, because I'm not a military man, I don't know much about that. But I do know, since the formal relation established, even before that, China, Israel, we do have some kind of military cooperation. For instance, China imported some kind of Israeli technology like Herzliya drone. You know Herzliya drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we in 1980s, and now we have maybe updated version, and also in the decades ago, China want to import Israeli early warning system, Falcon system, but later was stocked by U.S.
Oh, okay.
We all know that. Later is really pay compensation for that. But I'm sure in this area, the two sides, China and Israel, could do something. Not at the expenses of U.S. We all know U.S. is the strategic and the long-term partner of Israel. But that doesn't mean China could not do something. Israeli military technology is advanced, and the company want to earn money to sustain.
For sure.
To earn money, you have technology, you have good commodities, but don't export to other countries. That's waste of money, waste of human power. So, and China needs military technology. Why not? So I think this area is a good area to operate cooperation. But try to do something. Don't make U.S. nervous.
Fair enough. That's, I guess, the bottom line. They got to keep the U.S. from being nervous. Professor Wang, thank you so much for coming in studio and joining us today. I hope you enjoy your time at the Herzliya conference and the rest of your time here in Israel.
Well, I will. Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure.
IDC Radio 106.2 FM. IDC Radio in collaboration with ChinaIsrael.
106.2 FM